Does it work? Try it now.
I'm good to go.
Okay, cool. Time is now 5:34 and this meeting is started. Roll call. I'm not sure who's in the BOCC chambers, so if you all could. Oh, there you are. Okay. I see you all now. Okay, this should be better. I see you all now. Okay, so we have Sarah present, Jeff present, myself, yourself, Mateo, Clara, Dan, and that's everyone. So everyone's present.
Well, Tim is not here. Tim Hill is not here.
Tim Hill is not here. You're right. I thought I heard Jackie say Tim was here. Okay, everyone but Tim is present. Public comments for items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comments?
I just want to say that there's a town hall tomorrow for the county short-term rental proposed policy measures. There's a flyer attached to this invitation. It's at the Climax building at CMC room 401 tomorrow from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Jackie. Any other public comments not relating to the 2024 budget? Great, seeing none, we'll move on to our first discussion item and only discussion item, the 2024 proposed budget. Has everyone had a chance to review it? I know Jackie sent out a new version of this, so we're getting a share right now. Jackie, do you want to give a quick presentation on it?
Yep. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is the proposed operational budget. I apologize, I'd sent it out earlier with the project budget and it was just too convoluted and hard to understand. So let's just run through this. So for staff, you have me. I started out at $75,000 with cost of living adjustments and now up to $82,000, benefits $16,090. If we were to hire a deputy director at $67,600, their benefits would then be $13,151. And then the next items are just the 23-24 budget that was approved by the city and the county in 2022 when the Housing Authority was created. That's where these numbers are coming from. So I just want to kind of run through those. Office supplies, insurance, operating supplies, postage, professional services. We anticipate this $11,000 number being a lot because we're going to have to do a lot of community outreach as we go through the project. And also translations for the guidelines and all the things. And then travel, transportation. If I were, I did a lot of traveling as when I was speaking with DOLA. Didn't do much last year, but would like to, stay informed and continue that. A new fee that's being added is legal fees. We had the planning grant in place. And the planning grant was used to hire our consultant who guided us through adopting the affordable housing strategies. And he left a lot of the $65,000 there for us to utilize for legal fees. So that's what we have been using. We're about to use the remainder of that up. I'll find out as soon as I report on that tomorrow, but we should be pretty close to being done with that. The newspaper advertising, legal notices, and then the big other adjustment is the needs assessment. The county is very generously paying for most of that. Some of that is coming out of Ann Schneider's professional development for 2023. So she's paying $17,400 of it, and we have a grant for $22,500. So, and then jumping down, so our total expenses are $303,941. If we look at the city's contribution proposed for 2024, we have the 2A funds for my position, and then we have the 2A funds for the Housing Authority at $70,000, and then the recent supplemental request for a total of $440,000 that has been budgeted. And then jumping over to the county, they've been absorbing the difference in my salary and benefits, and then they've been paying all of the operating expenses. The other big contribution that the county has made is the donation of the 7 lots at the hospital to the tune of $450,000. That was the appraised value for that property. And let's see, lost my spot. And then the county's contribution of $26,000. This again is referencing back the 23-24 approved budget and the county's contribution to program funding. So bringing their total to the $216,780. And then grant funding. The only grant that I'm putting in here is the administrative grant, and we'll see the other grant, the incentives grant, on the next budget for the project. So that shows us having a surplus, which is of course imaginary once we get over to the project budget. Does anybody have any questions on this budget?
Are we really expecting to spend 40 grand on legal fees?
Yes.
And that's out
That's
of the remainder of the grant, right?
That was being taken care of. All of our fees up till now have been paid for from the other grant, but we're gonna have, I think, more things coming as we develop deed restrictions, and there's just a lot more stuff that we're gonna be
Yeah.
having to do.
Okay, I know lawyers are expensive.
Anybody else?
And just as a point of clarification, as Jackie mentioned, though it's not stated on here in terms of revenue, of course, the county is donating the land, the 7 lots of land that was appraised at 400. And how much was that, Jackie? 400 and what?
$450,000.
So $450,000. So even though it doesn't show directly under revenue, it is still a match towards the grant, and that's important to keep in mind if we do any reporting to community members or to city council, for example. So it's not just the revenue that you see on the screen that the county is donating. And I just want to make that very specifically clear so that there's no confusion. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks. The revenue from the city on 2A, is it maxed at the 140,000? I can't remember, or is it 170,000?
No, I believe the max is no longer applicable because Tabor, my understanding of Tabor is that only the first year maxes. I forgot what that max was for this first year, but we didn't quite reach it. After that, there is no worries about having to refund it. That's my understanding of it from when we initially did it. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I can circle back with you once I look into that a little bit more. But my understanding was that it was just a limitation on that initial year that we implemented the tax, and after that, we could go over the estimate that we had put.
Okay.
And we do expect to go over, I imagine, because 2A had a rough start. We didn't have the admin set up to fully administer the program, so we did forgive a lot of the taxes that were owed for a couple of months, I think. But I'd have to circle back with you. That was a long time ago. So I'll look more into 2A and what we project for it this upcoming year and circle back with the group.
Thanks.
but this would be a fair at best guess, best estimate currently.
Okay, so now if we pull up the other budget,
Did it switch for everybody on Zoom?
Yeah, it looks good. Thank you.
okay, so this is the project budget for bringing the infrastructure to the two sites and doing the master planning for the Harrison Ball Field. The only thing that I changed on this was I increased the tap fees according to what they are, because they went up 50%, so that's another $150,000 that is added to this budget. So if you go through, and I'm not gonna go through all the things, because I'm sure all of these things have probably gone up in price too since we first calculated this in 2022. But our plan is to build the 20 units, master plan Harrison Ball Field, and the first thing that we'll do is hire a planner, project manager, and then that individual will help us move the project forward, and will hire a engineer and the folks to do the master planning for Harrison and get things going. So if you look down you can see the total DOLA grant. The total estimated amount is $1,958,580. DOLA is contributing $1,184,276, and that leaves us with additional match. So a match between the city and the county was $300,000 to take away from that $774,304 deficit. So we're looking at a total infrastructure project deficit of $474,304. So if we were to apply our surplus from our operational budget, we are looking, it worked out to be 98,000, and I brought the wrong piece of paper in here. But anyway, so that's where we are on the project. So things, it'll be great to get started on this as things keep creeping up in price. A couple of things I wanted to mention also, I did apply for the congressional project funding. And the status of that funding is that it passed its first hurdle in the House Appropriations Committee in July. And that is supposed to be a good indicator that it will eventually succeed, although nothing is guaranteed. It's riding on the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development bill. And then I also applied for Prop 123 planning capacity funding for the county's Community Planning and Development Department. Chapin is also going to apply for funding in March. So we're hoping that we'll have some additional needs met there. Does anyone have any questions on this? And I'm sorry to go through it so fast.
Just to clarify, so is the Harrison Ball Field part of master planning, part of the DOLA grant?
Yes, in order to make up for the fact that we dropped from, we initially proposed building 78 to 82 units, and we are now down to 20. To sort of sweeten the situation, we said, yes, we're down to 20 units, but we do intend to, have a much bigger project, but it's going to take 3 years to go through the entitlement to that property. So if we can just spend some planning dollars there. So that's why we're spending money on that property. And it's about 12 acres, so it's significantly bigger than the other two sites.
Okay. And this is, again, our best guess, but I imagine some of these numbers may or go up or down depending on everything. But I think this is a fair, up-to-date, best estimate of what we can get right now, right, Jackie?
Yeah, we'll find out more as we put out the RFPs, and I'll update you when I know more. But just the tap fee increase was $150,000, and if you look at our project contingency of $105,000, so it really, really devastated our initial budget.
Clara, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just gonna comment, Jackie. Thank you for putting this together. It's a lot of work. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's very confusing. It's a little, and I felt like doing them separately made it make a little bit more sense, because I was having a hard time understanding what I was writing. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, but I suspect this will change as we move forward.
Any other additional questions regarding this part of the budget?
I don't have another question. I just wanna kind of offer a reminder maybe that, I mean, these are all kind of really specific to infrastructure pieces for the grant in particular, I think, in the project and the site, but I think it would be beneficial for us to have the conversations around what other incentives or contributions we want to try to give to the project. And, you know, like those buying down interest rates or whatnot, and I think that $474,000 number, as has already been said regarding infrastructure, but would likely only increase as other kind of elements get added to really make this pencil out and work for the rental or homeownership, whichever. I mean, we have yet to determine that even, so.
And I do want to point out the infrastructure is only water and sewer. It does not include Xcel Energy, so there's that.
Great.
Cool. Something else does someone have? Whoever's in the Board of County Commissioners, go ahead.
Tim Bergman is sitting here too. He said Xcel had expressed an interest to work on affordable housing. I'm not sure what that means
Yeah.
exactly.
I don't know what it entails, but they expressed an openness to it.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Jackie, when do we need to come up with a shade under $500,000?
Tomorrow?
Gonna be
I
tough.
think- Yeah, no, so I think honestly, if it's kind of moving pieces. We've got, one of the issues is this, when the city paid in December for 2023. So when I show that money for Revenue City, that's not really there necessarily if we don't collect it until the end of the year. But we really only have a deficit if you apply the operational budget surplus of about $98,000. So it's not as bad as it looks right there.
Yeah.
But it's probably worse, because we don't know.
Well, and I would imagine some of these costs have moved as well.
Yeah.
So when do we have to come up with $100,000?
I think it's important that we come up with that as soon as possible. So I applied for that congressional discretionary spending. Hopefully that comes through. Hopefully the other, the planning capacity funding comes through. You know, it's gonna take a minute to mobilize and to start spending this money. So, we're hoping to get the money spent by the end of the year.
And that's important to be able to meet the grant deadline anyways, so this is going to be fast moving, I'm assuming, for the rest of the year. In terms of budgeting, another thing I wanted to kind of give everyone a heads up on is also long-term thinking in terms of employment. Of course, we have Jackie here, who is comfortably funded, and her position is somewhat safe, but the other employee, if we do, or when rather we do hire someone else additional, is at 67,000 for a deputy director currently. At some point, and hopefully this year, we really need to start sitting down and planning for the future of how we can get consistent funding for these positions specifically. I think it's going to be incredibly important that we get funding that is recurring for these positions rather than relying on grants that are one-time grants or relying on a supplemental budget from either the city or the county for that matter. So really looking at maybe doubling down on something like 2A or potentially looking at other options like starting to dive into our sales tax increase. We can increase the sales tax up to 1%. Of course, property tax, maybe not the most popular thing or really the thing we should be doing right now. That is an option though that we have at our tool belt. So these are all things that we should really start looking at and thinking about when it comes towards staffing. I think it's going to be vitally important that we are able to provide some sort of, comfort to whoever is taking up this deputy director position, especially if we want them to have experience. We want to be able to reassure them that, hey, yeah, your position is going to be funded and you're not going to have to rely on a surplus budget from the city and you're not going to have to rely on the surplus budget from the county. So some way we need to get more consistent funding. And we, hopefully once we set the foundation after Antonella's stuff, we can get into that. But barring any other discussion, I wanted to see if anyone, if we are good to move to the approval of the 2024 proposed budget.
Budget, if I could add on to that, Christian, I think that's the long range goal, but I would offer that I think we need some stability comes from probably in reality the county or the city upfront for at least a few years before going to get, building the trust and successes to pass something in a sales tax or property tax, whichever might be more likely. And I think I would just encourage the county and the city to commit that funding for 3 years or 4 or 5 years, or at least make a resolution to commit it annually for a period of time, because that's another administrative lift that will take away from our resources in the projects that we have. If we're trying to do external ballot initiatives or something, which I think we need some more success under our belts to have that be fruitful.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. If anyone has any other comments, please let me know. We are running short on time, so keep them brief. Otherwise, we can move towards approving the budget. Right, seeing no other comments, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the Leadville Lake County Regional Housing Authority 2024 budget.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. It's Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other discussion?
None
All
for
in
me.
favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, all were in favor. So that wraps up our meeting. The time is now 5:57 and this meeting is now adjourned. Before anyone leaves, of course, we'll be doing our strategic planning meeting. I will send the link in the chat so that you know where to go, but it's also on your calendar if you decide to go that way. Oh, I can't send chats. It's all privated. It's on your calendar. You can find it there.
Thank you, see you in a minute.